This week in our collective heads, wanna put an old rumor to bed. Stereotype that you've all heard, how we're all just angry video game nerds. Most of us have actual jobs, kids and families and cats and dogs, yeah. This week in our collective heads, this week in our collective heads.
Welcome to This Week in Our Collective Heads. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin.
And welcome to the next episode of our Dark Souls 3 lore and discussion and story and all that.
Yes.
Sorry for the delay on this, part 5. We're going to be going through the Cathedral of the Deep.
Mm-hmm. And Farron Keep as well. Those two areas are very intensely connected, and it doesn't seem so at first, because you've got the religious side, and then you've got the Farron Knights and everything. And it doesn't seem like they're connected at first, but we will establish that they are very much so.
Yes, they are. And that's why you're here watching us, because we tell you why they're connected and help you better understand the storyline of Dark Souls.
Yes.
Because they don't help you in the game.
Right. And we're trying not to spoil things ahead of where the areas where we're talking about. So we will only be discussing, like, I know a lot more about this area than I did when I actually did it, and I understand things more, but I can also appreciate wanting to go through and find out a little bit at a time, allow you to formulate your own theories.
Sure.
Because the way that I play is I go through a section and then I watch Epic Name Bros playthroughs, and that allows me to develop my own perspective independent of him, and then see if he confirms or disagrees with what I think.
Yeah.
So one of the first items you pick up when you get into the cathedral is the Paladin's Ashes.
Yes.
And that gives you the Undead Hunter Charm, Dual Charm, Morningstar Crescent Axe, Canvas Talisman, and Lloyd's Shield Ring. The last one is the most interesting to me because it connects the Cathedral of the Deep to Allfather Lloyd, which goes way back. That's Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. Allfather Lloyd is very much connected, in my mind anyway, to the Farron Knights, because they have a very similar sense of approach as far as combat, allegedly as far as magic is concerned, because Allfather Lloyd hates people like me.
He hates magic.
Does not like the magic.
Yes.
And the shield ring, its effects are less important than the dialogue on that. It talks about how the way in which he enforced his will. And it's so the description is ring given to knights of the Way of White. Much time has passed since the worship of Lloyd was common in the Way of White. The clerics of Kareem had always asserted that Lloyd was a derivative fraud, and that the Allfather title is self-proclaimed. And it's another example of one of the individuals in the Dark Souls universe promoting themselves as the answer to all. And so yeah, we get to see that, and then that is kind of reflective of how religion tends to work in this world.
Yes.
What we see is the Deacons of the Deep are 100% committed. They serve Aldrich.
Yes.
And no one else. And in the Way of White, the Way of White is a little bit more altruistic in that they serve outside of themselves. But they are led, Allfather Lloyd, and he is self-proclaimed at. Some people in that world believe, and that's my favorite thing. Is like there you get all these different perspectives on stuff. Going back to the cathedral, we find our first deep Braille divine tome, and this is the first one that Arena doesn't want to mess with.
Yes.
If you try to give it to her and try to learn miracles from her, she goes, this is a scary story. I don't really want to read this. Yeah, and I guess she doesn't have to close her eyes, but dramatic effect.
Yeah,
let me have it. But the two spells that you get off of this, which I recommend giving them to Carla later in the game, way later in the game. But you get Deep Protection, which is a really wonderful spell that boosts a bunch of stats, and then you also get Gnaw, which is you send out this little swarm of insects. It looks like the evangelist's spell, but when it hits, it's a damage over time, and they just keep eating at you.
Very nice.
And yeah, so that's an unpleasant spell that I like putting on my enemies. But yeah, it's kind of our first indication that the magic they're using is a lot less clean,
Yeah.
I guess, because a lot of the way that magic and the perception thereof works in Dark Souls is that there are spells that, you know, the sorceries, the spears and the soul spears and all that, they have a bit of a homing because they will seek out the humanity in other people or other creatures. Even.
Creatures, yeah.
And so a lot of that is seen as pure thing because it's harmonious, it's circle of life, and it's we're all just looking for souls here. But then you get into like the poison pyromancies have always been a forbidden. We don't mess with that stuff. And so the second of the spells that you get from the tome is Gnaw, which is a really nasty spell, and it's
Just the name.
yeah.
Gnaw.
And yeah. So that's where we kind of start to see that the way that they're approaching things are less than clean.
Yeah.
So the spell description is Dark Miracle, taught in the Cathedral of the Deep. Summon insects swarm to feast on foes. Those insects which lurk in the deep have tiny jaws lined with fangs to tear open the skin and burrow into the flesh in the blink of an eye, causing intense bleeding.
That's just
This
yummy.
is just some nasty stuff.
That's
and,
yummy.
And so we start to see that regardless of their intent, it doesn't even matter what they're trying to do, the spells that they've come up with and the way that they're approaching magic is in a very malicious is taking a very malicious approach.
Exactly. As opposed to, like you said, the harmonious kind of purity aspect of the curing.
Wanting to be holy, the way the blessings are supposed to work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mostly.
We're also introduced to in the cathedral. We're introduced to Rosaria's fingers and a couple of members of that particular sect.
I'd say sect. It's very very religious from my view of it, at least. You may know more about it than I do. We sort of Rosaria's fingers. You meet Rosaria in this area, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so we can talk about that at least. Talk about that at least. So she can respec you, if you guys didn't realize that.
By turning in a pale tongue.
By turning in a pale tongue. Do not offer her a pale tongue.
Right.
If you offer her a pale tongue, things may happen. So we would suggest don't offer it, but you can respec, which uses a pale tongue, which is different than offering a pale tongue.
Right.
Yeah. So
offering a pale tongue grants you ranks in that covenant.
yes, but we'll cut off certain other story aspects.
Right.
So.
Specifically Cirrus. She
Yes.
doesn't like it.
Yes, she does.
So Rosaria's fingers is a covenant. Sacred seal of Archdeacon Clint, who served Rosaria, Mother of Rebirth, equipped to pledge oneself to the Rosaria's fingers covenant. Rosaria's fingers collect tongues in her name. Some do it to be reborn, the respec we were talking about. Others do it to help comfort their voiceless goddess. So yeah, this is the covenant in which you invade and defeat a host.
Yes.
And so
So I hate these people.
yes, these people are not particularly.
I'm trying to have fun. I'm trying to play the game. When someone evades me and then jump off the cliff. Maybe.
But I don't mind with Longfinger Kirk and Hazel. Although I do kind of resent Yellowfinger Hazel because she didn't show up where she was supposed to, and so I can't get her giant Ulasil hat that I want so badly. And so
why didn't she show up for you? Do you know?
I wasn't embered at the first place she's supposed to invade. And then the second place, she didn't show up at the second place she's supposed to invade. And then if she doesn't invade, you don't kill her. She's supposed to show up in Rosaria's bedchambers and that's one of the really interesting things because she invades you as a spirit with the giant Ulasil headgear.
Yes.
I want so very, very badly. Just because it's a reference to the old monk in Demon Souls.
Yeah.
I want it so bad. Anyway, she invades, in human form or whatever. But then if that doesn't happen, she's supposed to show up as one of those grubs. And the grub drops her hat and her pickaxe, Hazel's pickaxe.
Gotcha.
And so
yeah, she didn't pop up for me at all. So I don't think I was embered in those areas.
Yeah.
I thought the fingers aspect of this, obviously, because that's part of her covenant or whatever. But I like that all have like yellow fingers and long fingers.
Yeah.
Everyone has fingers.
There's also, well, Rosaria has the fingers. There's also a theory that, okay, so because of the way that Rosario works, long finger, the middle finger, we won't.
Yep.
But yeah, there's some who theorize that if you join the covenant, you become the ring finger, the most committed to her, and therefore, yeah, you're like pledging, committing.
What's the yellow
on
finger?
a whole different level?
I don't know what long finger is.
Right.
Which one's the yellow finger?
Hazel.
No, I mean,
so we got next up. We have Patch. I don't know, whichever one you use to pick boogers. Obviously.
You wouldn't do this if you're fancy? I don't know.
No, that's the one you raise when you're drinking tea.
Yes.
Alright, so finally we get to meet Patches. I love Patches. Patches banks me.
Yeah. So as you're going through the cathedral area, you'll run into Patches if you go up after you've beaten the deacons, or before. You'll go up and Patches tries to troll you, which I found, for me, it was really funny because he basically says, "Oh yeah, go off, whatever." And as you go through the bridge, it lowers, and he's like, "Haha, this giant's gonna kill you." I already killed the giants.
Yeah, and then he gets mad at you.
Then he gets mad. Did you already kill him by the time he'd done?
No,
Okay.
because Christian Banks took me up to the rafters, and if you go up to the rafters to where Rosaria's fingers are before you encounter Patches, he doesn't show up.
Ah, okay. See, I had not. Yeah, so I got this aspect. So
I've seen it, but I didn't
bridge.
have it
Okay,
in my
because
game.
the bridge that you go across lowers, and
He's also hanging out in Sigurd's armor, who somehow he convinced to take off his armor and jump into a well.
I don't know how he convinced him to do that. That's
He's sneaky as crap.
he is. I thought it was funny because as soon as it happened, he's basically saying you'll have to contend with the giants, and I got down there and then he's really mad because he's like, well, where are they? Because I killed both of them. They're really actually not that hard to kill.
Monster.
What? They stomped on me.
I understand that. You're an insect to them.
Well,
The giants are the most oppressed race in the Dark Souls universe.
they stomped.
They are
on
not bad guys.
Me. I needed items around me.
Yes, I got the items around them, and I didn't kill a giant.
Okay, but
Judging you.
you can judge
Judging
me.
me.
You can judge me. I mean,
Anyway, that's
I'm asked for a lot of
my
things.
own personal, because in the storyline of Dark Souls 2, you find out that that the king was motivated to go after the giants who were no threat, who were
Yes.
not opposing him, and he basically wiped them out.
yeah, I will say. I mean,
I very much since that time have sympathized with the giants because they're, and I mean, like, mostly, I mean, okay, a bug is not actively trying to hurt me 95% of the time, but if I see it, I'm still going to try to squish it. Not spiders. I
Yeah.
like spiders. But
spiders kill bugs,
yeah,
so yeah.
they eat mosquitoes, and
Yes.
so I let them live.
Yes, well, I killed both those giants. So yeah, after that, like you mentioned, you'll see Patches. Actually, well, he asked right after that. He asked to be forgiven, and I said, yeah, don't worry about it.
So you missed out on a gesture.
No, I got it later.
Did you?
I got it later
Okay, cool.
because he asks again in the Firelink Shrine. He asks again, "Hey, sorry about all that," and I
Okay.
refused, and I got the gesture.
Okay.
So he's
I like his gestures though. Like one of them is prostration, just bowing down on the ground, and then the other one is called Patches Squat, where you're just sitting there, and it's I like that one in particular because it's a throwback to, like, you've seen him in that pose all the way back. That's a Demon Souls reference because the first time that you encountered Patches, he kicked you down a well and then squatted at the top of the well and yelled down at you, "Haha, you're dumb." you want to grab that treasure?
Yeah, while you're down there.
Yeah, and I think Patches is the greatest troll in
He's
the greatest NPC troll in the history of games.
Like you said, he trolled Sigurd enough to get Sigurd to go down the well again, another well. This time, I don't know if he's convinced him to say, well, surely you can't fit in with all that armor. Maybe it's something like that.
Yeah.
So you can buy you'll find him.
So I don't know about you, but I kind of pictured Sigurd going down the well. If Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. Like that's what I picture when I picture Sigurd going down the well.
Yeah. You'll find him in a well later on, and we're not going to spoil that area, but you will find him later on, and if you have to go and buy the armor.
Get his armor and then give it to him down the well. Yeah, because he's sitting in a well close to the first bonfire in Cathedral of the Deep, and he says, what a pickle I find myself in. How about that? I went down a well after getting rid of my armor. I'm not in a good way down here.
Yep.
And you can buy his armor from Patches.
Yes.
Toss it down.
And give it back to him.
Which clearly indicates that his armor could have fit.
If you tossed it down.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but maybe not while it's equipped to someone. I don't know.
Armor doesn't get bigger because it's on somebody.
Well, it can fill out because you're in it. It could collapse in as it's going down.
Maybe.
It depends on if they're all one piece or multiple pieces. Anyways, so yeah, Patches trolls that, and
then when you get back to Firelink, he will lock the door behind you when you're on the elevator with the 20,000 souls key that we recommended you get before. And in there you find the Firekeeper's soul and the Firekeeper's gear, and we already talked about that a little bit.
Yes.
So we're not going to go too deep into that.
So we do recommend, if you hadn't already, if you're at this area, go back and let him lock you in there. Go up the tower, go across, get into and then he'll lock you in there. Yeah. I recommend you do that because it's just really cool to see him do.
It's
fun. Then you jump down and he doesn't expect it. So beforehand, if you haven't killed the Katana guy, kill the Katana guy and do all that. So as you're the fire. So what's next? The Firekeeper.
Right now I think we already talked about the Firekeeper's soul.
Firekeeper's soul. Yeah, we did talk about that.
I'm not going to do that. But when you get back to Firelink Shrine after you defeat the Deacons of the Deep, Henri is there and Horus is there, right?
Yes.
Yes. So Henri is there with Horus, and he at you.
Yep.
But her dialogue says, well, I keep saying her, but for me it was a guy.
For you it was a guy. Right. For me it was a girl. It depends on what your sense is.
I really like her female voice actor better, though, and I think that's part of why. Anyway, so
Ian B's playthrough it's a girl, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So he/she says, "Oh, and we meet again. We spoke before on the Road of Sacrifices, Henri of Astora. I am well pleased to keep you safe. We reached the Cathedral of the Deep, but Aldrich's coffin was empty. The man-eater must have left for his true home. The little doll in the empty coffin told me. Aldrich is said to hail from Irithyll in the Boreal Valley, an ancient fabled city. And so becomes our destination." That's two dialogues that I just kind of mixed in there because it has repeating information. But this is where we really start to find out what the Deacons, because we know that they're nasty, and we know that they're united and committed to this religious mission of theirs, as they see it. And we start to find out a little bit about Aldrich. We know he's nasty. We know that he's a man-eater. And we know that he is aiming for something higher. Is what we start to get, is that he's not just consuming people because he likes to eat people, but we start to understand that he has a mission. He has a target, a goal. Yes. And so that'll come up later. I know way more about this than we're going to talk about now.
We'll talk about it later, but one thing that I would point out is that we're talking about finding a coffin empty. And a lot of people have interpreted this in different ways. My interpretation of it, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, how can you have a coffin if you're not dead? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, it could have been building that area similar to, kind of like the ancient Egypt, where you're creating a tomb for someone who's still alive.
Yeah.
That's a very normal thing in those older cultures. It maybe even a normal thing. If you look at like some stories like the Old West, you'd have people who would make or buy their coffins before they died,
Yeah.
so that way their heirs wouldn't have to do so. So the question is, did he die but not really die and then come back, or was it always an empty coffin?
Well, and then there's also the idea. I mean, this is a world in which people die and are reborn, and it's cyclical in that
Yeah.
way. I mean, the original Count Dracula slept in a coffin. This is it can be symbolic, and that's how I see it.
Sure.
Because when you go down into the the Deacons of the Deep fight, which is one of my favorite. Like, that's so much fun.
It was interesting.
Like,
it wasn't hard, but
it's not hard,
yeah.
but it's interesting. It's fun, and it's really fun to help people with. And I did that a lot.
Yeah. So Deacons, obviously, if you're watching this, you either want to spoil it for yourself, or you've beaten this area.
Yeah.
What I liked about it was, I mean, like I said, I got it on my first try, but I'm not saying that to brag, but there was a good amount of me killing off. Like, I didn't realize, it's changing a host.
Right.
The Deacon is a different person. It's like
Until you get to the Archdeacon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other things that's interesting is the way that this room is designed, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but the Aldrich's coffin is much larger than Aldrich himself, and so that's another reason that I think that it's symbolic, because his coffin. I mean, you go up to this one room. There's all these lined statues all around, and then there's the giant thing in the middle that is open and not.
Yes.
So I believe that to be Aldrich's coffin, and it's much too big for actually Aldrich himself. And so I think that they believe that he is worthy of this, and that in that world, that memorials and monoliths and commemorative things, even if they're still alive, would the bigger the grander.
The grander. Yeah, I would agree. At first, I did wonder if he was big, because he's not a giant.
Right.
And seeing something like that, I was like, this is just massive.
Yeah.
Godlike, if you will. So, anyways, so later on, so going into Farron Keep, if you've beaten this area, this is basically dead ends. And when I was actually playing through this, I was looking through a cheat sheet that doesn't tell you. It's the cheat sheet that I think we posted a few times.
Yeah.
That does not spoil anything for you, but make sure you go, make sure you do this, make sure you do this.
Right. But before you fight the boss, check this cheat sheet out. Make sure you've taken care of, and you've gotten the important things in this area.
Yes.
And yeah.
So if you are watching this and spoiling yourself, and you haven't gotten to Farron Keep, in the Crucifixion Woods, off to the left, as the right was where you found the Black Knight and the people being crucified, and the left is where we found Orbeck and all that area. There is some stairs that if you go around, there's NPC invader people that are there, and then you go down a ladder. So if you're like me, you just ran past them, go down the ladder, bonfire.
Yeah.
So that's how I did it.
So once you get into Farron Keep, which I habitually call Farron Swamp, because it's not really a keep
it's a
anymore.
Swamp. It's not a keep.
Like there's walls around it, yeah, but no.
No, it is a swamp. It's been overtaken, and this is my least favorite area in the entire game because of the cursed mechanic in here.
The curse or the poison?
It's curse, right? Because you can get cursed.
The basilisks? The basilisks are the ones that build up curse. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, because the poison, okay, I can deal with some poison. I kind of pace myself. I take something to take the moss to reduce it.
Yeah. The regen on the bell.
Yes.
All the time, because it more than counters the poison. And so, yeah, that's just what I use for this entire section.
I didn't like the curse area because once you are cursed to a certain point, it's not, you're cursed now and you're going to take damage. No, you're cursed, you're dead. Bye.
The curse has hit you and you has died.
There's no reversing the curse. You are cursed. You are dead.
Yeah.
On the spot. That irritated me. The poison, I get.
I don't like fighting the giant, super fast sage trees.
Those were insane.
while I'm way slowed down and
Because
not
of the
able
water and everything.
not able to dodge.
Yeah. There's some really great stuff in this area that in regards to the scrolls and everything. So
Yeah.
I think you could probably talk a little bit about that. This is the birthplace of pyromancy, right?
The Great Swamp was considered to be that, and I think when he's talking about the swamp, I actually think he's referring to the previous area.
Okay.
Yeah. For other reasons, but
I think this is swampy.
Okay, but Cornix says that the Great Swamp is where it came from, and we know that the land is kind of coming together, and because these areas are right next to each other, it could be either one. So either interpretation could be acceptable. But yeah, you find the sage coal in Farron Keep when you first start out, and the sage's coal says the white magic flame produced by this coal was given to the undead legion long ago by one of the crystal sage twins, and the crystal sage is on the path to the cathedral, and then this and the undead legion go in the other direction, and that's another connection between the two areas. Also in Farron Keep are both the sage and the golden scroll, which are the Ulasil sorceries respectively.
Yes, which we mentioned, I think I mentioned before, if you don't give these to Orbeck, right?
Right.
Yeah, if you don't give them to Orbeck
before you defeat the Abyss Watchers,
he leaves.
Yeah, he's like, you're not serious about this research thing. I'm out.
Because he said, this is the deal. I will teach you, but you got to give me scrolls.
Yeah.
You go find the stuff. I'll teach you stuff from the scrolls.
Right. So under the Sage Scroll, and this is kind of the Farron mysteries, because we get Great Farron Dart and Farron Hail. And it says, scroll containing sorceries of the crystal sages. Give to a sorcerer to learn sorceries of the sages. A lot of alliteration in there. As any sorcerer knows, sorcery is a talent, and these sorceries were refined to nurture a very special talent. And it's talking about kind of the balance between swordsmanship, and because these are really quick fire spells.
Yes.
The Farron Dart you can fire while moving, and if it was more powerful, I would use it more. But it just kind of
it's a little pinger.
Yeah.
This is why I kept saying crystal sages in regards to the fight.
Yeah.
Because it's a crystal sage. It's one of. It's not
right. One
the
of
only
the two.
thing.
Right. But everywhere else it's referenced as crystal sages.
Sages. Yeah. But the fight is actually a sage.
Right.
It's important.
And then the golden scroll. A golden scroll chronicling the vast research of the Xanthus scholars. Give to a sorcerer to learn the arts of Ulasil. In the lost land of Ulasil, these sorceries orchestrated light and were said to shine in golden hues. You get cast light, repair, hidden weapon, hidden body, and twisted wall of light. Basically, it's cloaking. It's Romulans.
Yes, all about that.
All about the Romulans.
Yes.
And so the Ulasil mysteries are of particular interest because there's not a whole lot of them, and like King Jeremiah was exiled to the Painted World, and so there's been a lot of oppression as far as the Ulasil sorceries are concerned, even though they're not particularly nasty sorceries. And that's one of the things I'm looking forward to in my Dark Souls 1 playthrough is understanding more about why this happened, how this happened, because this to me seems to be the most scholarly of all the pursuits, because it's mostly about hiding and twisting light and manipulating magic in a non-aggressive way,
which I think is one of the cooler aspects of magic. People don't dig into that much when in regards to like in gameplay. You usually have the fire and ice and all of this. Guild Wars 2, if you haven't checked out Guild Wars 2, it's really fun. One of the classes you can play is a mesmer, and it's all of these it's these illusionary magic kind of stuff, and you can create duplicates of yourself that are all attacking, and it confuses people, and you can do teleports, and I really like that, because to me it's not all about just the outright aggression. If you play Magic the Gathering, dropping another game in there, but if you play Magic the Gathering, a blue mage is about deceit, and it's about getting advantage over your intellectual advantage over your opponent, being able to draw more cards, having more options, as opposed to just blasting out fire as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So it's really cool stuff.
Yeah. I also like it because the Ulasil magic hidden weapon allows you to roleplay as Saber from Fate Stay Night, because she has a hidden weapon. She's awesome. Alright.
So, after you've... you don't necessarily have to light the fires to go up to the Old Wolf, right?
Not to go up to the Old Wolf, you have to light the fires to get to the Abyss Watchers,
Correct.
which is the boss.
So the Old Wolf, if you there's a large tower right around the center-ish area.
Yeah.
You don't have to have lit the fires yet, because I didn't realize I was supposed to light fires because I wasn't paying attention. So I got up there, and there's an old wolf of Farron, and there's a bonfire there.
Made me so sad.
What? Yeah, very. That gains the access to the Watchdogs Covenant, and you get a gesture.
Watchdogs, see what you did there.
And you get a gesture, and right above that, it's a really cool area for some items. If you kind of have to,
and for perspective, because up top is the broken bridge that you were able to see all the way back from Vort. When you were kind of looking down, you could see a broken bridge and a crashed dragon, and it was really exciting, and you were like, oh, that looks awesome, and you finally get to go there. And I was so excited when I climbed up, and I was like, hey, I can look, wait, that there.
I also like the aspect that of the keep underneath the swamp overtaking it, because you go up the elevator and all of a sudden, oh, it's daytime, and you're like, whoa.
Well, yeah, because you got to get over the basically the smog of the swamp and these thick trees and vines everywhere, and you get to get above that and have the sunlight.
Praise the sun. And then so there's also a stray demon up there, which is the first thing that when I first got to this area, I went, okay, I'll get that later, because I was getting handed to me. But if you go opposite, there's two gates on that bridge. One of the gates you can get around and get a bunch of items.
Drop down
and stuff.
in the area.
Drop down
and climb up around.
Yeah, so recommend, if you didn't do that, go do that. There's some items and cool stuff there. Relatively easy NPCs there on that side, so go do that. I actually saw someone's, I don't know what you consider it, someone's ghost, when you see like the visage of the person that's also playing the game while you're playing the game, which is one aspect I love about that, because I'll see someone do something and go, wait.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
Where's the call out button? Hey!
Hey! I want to know what you're doing. I've actually got an illusionary wall from doing that, because no one posts. I like that people put messages. Mm-hmm. No one put the message there, or at least at the time there wasn't a message.
Yeah.
And I saw someone go, and they hung a right, and I'm like,
there's a wall there.
And it didn't fade out. He went through the wall. He didn't fade out as he went towards the wall.
Yeah.
So it's a big difference. Yeah. That's one thing I love about it. One thing that if you're playing the game, then you understand. If you haven't played this game and you're watching this just for the lore, the way that you can communicate to people, we've said this before, but you have gestures, and then you can write things on the ground with set phrases and words.
We're going to assume you know all that.
You should know all that, but it's awesome stuff.
So going back to the Old Wolf of Farron, it's Sith, right?
Yeah.
And Abyss Watchers, and it's fun to think about like what it is that leads to this place. It says in the description that he bleeds when struck. What kind of monsters are you people?
Yeah. Well, who doesn't? If you prick me, do I not bleed? I mean, come on, really?
Yeah, earlier this year, yes, we asked the question, do you bleed? But that's not important. But yeah, so this kind of goes into the Farron Knights and describes how they're taking over for Artorias.
Yes.
And they are also guarding the Abyss, but because of their proximity to the Abyss, the Abyss is inherently corrupting. And so while they're trying to guard from it, they are also simultaneously being corrupted by it.
Yes.
And that's why it's necessary for the watchdogs of Farron to infuse themselves with the blood of the Old Wolf. I think that kind of keeps them, because Sif never went like hostile or hollow or anything. Sif maintained its
hits. I don't know.
Okay.
I say his,
Sif,
but
Sif maintains sanity,
Yes.
where Artorias did not.
Yes.
And so my theory is that those who are able to keep with the actual physical blood of the old wolf are able to infuse themselves with that and therefore maintain sanity for longer.
yeah, I'd agree. One thing that I do like about the Abyss Watchers, when you come up on the fight, you see two of them fighting each other. So
Yeah.
you have the discord within the group, but also that corruption. And it doesn't matter if you're corrupt or the other's corrupt. It's just like, I'm taking out the corruption, the hypocrisy. To me, I always like that hypocrisy aspect of it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, you're corrupt too. I don't care. I'm killing you. And so even in the fight,
Yeah.
you are attacking one, and then another one comes up, and the two of them will fight it out.
It's one of the that fight is so much fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
And the actual like the long dashes and the trailing
Yes.
fire really reminded me of I watched Christian's playthrough of the old Hunters.
Yeah.
And there's a boss in there that's just she's demonic and hateful and awful, and I'm not excited about fighting her.
Yeah.
But she's got this in that game, because it's Bloodborne, it's a blood trail.
Sure.
But it was very reminiscent of that fight, in the long dashes and the swoop and the trailing fire, and you dash through, but
Yeah.
you still get hurt on the other side, and it's just a wonderful fight. And if the fight goes on for long enough, more knights rise up, and the cycle repeats itself.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that, because I ended it quickly enough.
Yeah.
But
Mine, I only got one at a time fighting it, but one other Watcher coming to fight the original Watcher, and after I died the first time, I realized, okay, first time I said, okay, I need to concentrate on this one person,
Right.
but I never got more than one additional one, because that Abyss Watcher would kill the other one
right.
while I
You
was stabbing them in the back and stuff.
It gets up to 3, and so
Okay.
there will be the Abyss Watcher, the boss, and then the one who's attacking that one, and then another one who's allied with the actual boss attacking you and his.
Okay, yeah, that'd be
and that's
frustrating.
fun. And then at the end, like you get him, knock him down, and then just kind of the souls of all of them unite and come back as Rod, and that was so fun. I really, really enjoyed this fight, and it because of the way that they approached it, and like they fight without shields, and it's two-handed, it's off. Best defense is a good offense,
Yes.
and that's just what they go for.
Just sheer aggression
And swordplay, because the moves that they use are more complicated than the moves of a lot of others. Like they have dedicated themselves to swordplay, and that is the thing that I think they kind of hold on to. You know, even if they're getting corrupted, they have their swordplay.
Yes. It's not the knight battles that you have in a lot of the others, where it's shield and sword. There are a lot of knight shield sword enemies in this game. The harder knights, if you will, elites, whatever you want to call them. There's a lot of that in this game, and these guys are not that. So.
Yeah. Also, in relation to the Abyss Watchers, Hawkwood, who hangs out in Firelink Shrine.
Yes.
A lot of us believe that Hawkwood is a failed Knight of Farron.
Okay.
Because it talks about for one thing, he has a shield, and he's the one who kind of tells you about those Knights of Farron, they have just a ridiculous induction ceremony. You get hazed. They put you in a toilet.
That makes sense.
Okay. He doesn't actually say that, but he talks about like the kind of induction ritual in a very familiar sense.
Yeah.
And he also makes fun of them and says that they're just crazy people and stuff. And then it's a really fun one. I encourage you to look into that and see what you can pull from that.
Yeah.
So, was there anything that you feel like we missed from those two areas, or anything overarching that you wanted to discuss?
Mostly, I just hate Farron Keep.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate it. I the only thing that I liked was after I lit the fires, that I got out of that friggin' swampy, cursed area. I will say that by this time in my playthrough, my strategy of running away had gotten pretty good, and I think that really helped me in this area because there are so many enemies in here that it's not worth staying and fighting. Poison or curse, either way, I just ran the heck out of there a lot of times.
Yeah.
We actually didn't talk about the antiquated set.
Yes. Antiquated set you find in a cave in Farron Keep.
Yes.
And it's the Crown of Dusk, and that's Dark Souls 1 stuff. Ask Christian about it. he knows way more about this than I do.
Yes, he
but
does.
The antiquated set is a beautiful flowing silk gown, and it's and you also get the Crown of Dusk, which I'm not going to pretend to know more about this than I do. It's a set that's a reference to a character in Dark Souls 1, and the crown itself is really important to kind of the connection between those two worlds. Sorry, I'm not able to expand on it more, but this is one of those areas that I don't really have the knowledge to discuss at length, and I apologize for that.
And we will have Christian on for discussion on Dark Souls 3 as a whole.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure he'll bring this up. And I also really enjoyed in the swamp. At one point, you can find another white tree, and you can have our good old buddy the Golem shooting more arrows and killing crap for you. That was fun, and you can find more white branches over there.
Yeah, I forgot about that because that happened, and I was surprised because I thought someone was shooting at me, and I realized,
yeah. And
how did he see through all the fog and everything?
How does he do anything? Because he does some crazy stuff. Because up on the cathedral, he's shooting arrows there too, and like, I don't think this is a spoiler. I went back later. I don't know when he disappeared. He's not down at the first location anymore. I was going back. Okay. I was going back to do some of Cirrus's quest, which is over by the Greatwood tree.
Maybe that's how
he's gone.
Maybe he's moving to different areas, and that's how you can hit all these different places.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know where he is. I will try to track him down and figure out what his actual location.
Let us know in the comments if we missed it, if you see him somewhere that we didn't see, because so far I haven't seen anyone else anyone has mentioned it.
Yeah.
So let us know, and let us know if there's anything else you liked about the Farron Keep and the stuff.
No spoilers about Aldrich.
Yeah.
Those are out there. I know them, but I didn't mention them
because we care.
Right.
Yeah.
So in a future video, we will talk more about Aldrich. Yes. We will talk more about what the things we found here mean, and we will continue this series as we move forward. We're going to try to do this in a more regular fashion. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we'll be able to go through the game much more quickly.
There's a lot to go through. Yeah. We'll see you guys later.